Chiefs-Chargers in Brazil on Friday on YouTube. They're going to give everyone that game for free. They're so generous because the rest of the season they're going to fleece you for all your money.
That's one, Scott. That division to me, based on what's happened to the Chiefs the last couple seasons, that division, the AFC West, could be up for grabs here. I know Chiefs fans think I'm probably out of my mind.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
If you believe he should be in the Hall of Fame, there's, let's let him wait another 2 years. Wait, he's already dead at this point. Like, what are you waiting for? Another 2 to 3 years. He's either in or he's out. And sometimes you look at that too, Thomas, like you can't tell, the history of Major League Baseball without Pete Rose.
Frankly, the writers have some standard that they want to hold players to, which seems to fluctuate on a player-to-player basis. So he should be in the Hall of Fame, but I'm not sure how quickly he'll get there.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
You are a Pirates fan. I don't think you've got a reason good enough for me to be wearing Met stuff when the Mets are playing the Pirates right now. I don't think I'm gonna go, okay, I see it at the end of your explanation.
I'm gonna put it on Vinny. I'm gonna put it on all the Mets fans. The Pirates won 2 in a row. They fired the manager over the weekend. A new era of Pirates baseball has begun.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching!
Why? Because of parody.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Good morning. Welcome to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. I'm Craig Mish. Thanks for tuning into the show today. We got a lot of fun over the next hour. We got plenty to cover, including the latest in the National Football League. Folks, we are 50% through the NFL's offseason, and believe it or not, training camps and mini camps getting set to open up here in a little bit over a month, and Adam Caplan will join us here on the show. Of course, we will cover the National Basketball Association and the Stanley Cup playoffs, but guess what? No games last night in either. I think we'll be good now for the rest because we'll have games tomorrow and Wednesday and Thursday and on and on. So naturally, that means a lot of baseball coverage here on today's show. And we'll also talk to Roch Kubatko of Masson Sports. He covers the Baltimore Orioles. What is going on in Birdland right now? To say the least, he will weigh in on that as well. So let's get started here on the program and got some sports betting news to open up with you here on the show. This was the story that really captured the world about 6 months ago with Shohei Ohtani and, of course, his former interpreter. Remember him, Ipe, who ended up basically taking Ohtani's money and betting on sports and using it for all kinds of sports wagering things. And he was accused and basically said, I did it, and ended up going to jail. But the bottom line is that they're still investigating that situation. And right now, the lead investigator who was on that case has decided that he's going to retire. So what does that mean for this case? It may be completely done. This is, of course, the assistant U.S. attorney Jeff Mitchell, who was at the center of the Ohtani investigation with him and his former interpreter. And now he's decided that as of May 16th, he's no longer going to be on this case or any other. He's stepping away. Also, you may remember there's a couple of other cases that involve sports betting that he was spearheaded, and that was with David Fletcher, former Angels infielder, and also Yasiel Puig, former outfielder with the Dodgers, and of course with Cleveland as well. As of right now, someone else will have to pick up the case, but needless to say, it's probably good news for those people who have been accused, with the lead investigator deciding to step down. Also, those of you who live in the state of Oregon, good news for you as well. In case you wanted to bet on sports yesterday, Caesars Sports opened its first ever sports betting outfit through a partnership with the Coquille Indian Tribe. This is going on in Oregon right now, and the ceremonial first bet was placed on self-service wagering kiosks inside the casino. So those of you who live in the Pacific Northwest and want to bet, you got your opportunity to bet on sports there. They are open and ready for business is Caesars. Also open and ready for business. Hey, the Arizona Diamondbacks are on a roll trying to chase down the Padres, the Dodgers, and the Giants in the National League West. Brandon Pfaadt has been fantastic for them after signing a contract extension this offseason. He wins his 7th game and the Diamondbacks beat the Dodgers 9-5. Folks, that means the Dodgers have lost 4 games in a row at home, which is where they never lose for the first time since May of 2018. You don't have to do the math there. That's a long time ago. Here's Mookie Betts on the struggles of the club.
It has. We haven't given up. But you're going to go through certain situations like this. It's just tough. You got to find a way to get back healthy, get our guys back out there. But we're battling with what we got.
For you offensively, just to get those 2 home runs, when you're showing power like that, is that at least an encouraging sign for you and where you want to be to help support this team?
Sure. Didn't really matter because we lost, but I had a good game. We'll see. I've had a couple of good games and then kind of went missing, so have to keep it going.
Have you still been working through those same habits you had early in the year, or kind of what's been the focus of your work lately?
I don't know. It's kind of been all over the place, just trying to figure things out. Found out the cue that worked today, so we'll see tomorrow. It's just a constant battle. You don't feel good every day. There's a lot of variables that kind of go into it, so we'll see tomorrow.
Tigers having a great season, met their match yesterday. It was Sonny Gray and the Cardinals beating the Tigers 11-4 yesterday. He struck out 10 and threw 6 scoreless innings, and the Cardinals, one of the surprises of the season in baseball. In fact, they've won 13 of their last 15 games while outscoring their opponents 85-36. It's Jordan Walker. He had a nice game for the Cardinals last night. Also, Chris Bubik helped the Royals beat the Giants by a final of 3-1. Nice pitching matchup there. Needless to say, the Giants have been a little bit of hit or miss this season in terms of offense. Some games going, wild, and some games not scoring. Bob Melvin talked about dropping the game and not getting on the board very often.
Bob, you'd mentioned a little bit about Bubic before the game and what makes him so tough. What was he doing in particular tonight that was giving you guys problems?
Everything. When he pitches in, he pitches out, pitches up, he pitches down. Had a couple different break balls working, threw his changeup, both sides of the plate. It was really good. We've seen some good pitchers this year. That was right up there.
You've made a couple of small tweaks to your lineup against lefties. What more might you think about doing to get these guys going in those games?
We've been a little better. We've won a couple games against lefties. I think regardless, it was going to be tough against him today.
The story that is probably making the most waves in baseball today has nothing to do with an outcome of the game. It is Juan Soto of the New York Mets, in case you missed it yesterday. First of all, we'll get to the final. The Red Sox beat the Mets 3-1, and Jarren Duran had a double and a triple, but Juan Soto was the story because Soto, playing against the Green Monster, of course, in Boston, ended up hitting one off the Monster, and Soto, I guess, thought it was out. And instead of just hauling down the line, trying to get a double out of it, Soto sort of, let's just say didn't run his hardest toward first base. And so naturally he's under fire today. Manager of the Mets, Carlos Mendoza, says they'll have a conversation. And he talked about what happened last night.
Soto didn't bust it out of the box on that ball off the wall. Last night he had a play where he was a little slow getting out. Do you have to talk to him about any of that?
Yeah, we'll talk to him about it. Tonight, obviously, someone gets a hold of one and knows when he gets it, he's won, And he thought he had it, but with the win and all that. And in this ballpark, or anywhere, but in particular in this one, with that wall right there, you got to get out of the box. So, we'll discuss that.
Last couple of nights, you've had a couple of plays where you were slow getting out of the box. Is that something you have to be more aware of?
No. I think being hustling very hard. If you see it today, you could tell. It's part of the game. It's not always going to be great. We're going to have up and downs. We just got to keep our chin up and keep moving forward. It's a game of failure. Sometimes you got to fail, and you just got to keep moving forward. It doesn't matter what.
With the Mets loss and the Phillies win, they move into first place. The story last night in the win over the Rockies, everybody beats the Rockies, 9-3. As the Phillies end up winning. Kyle Schwarber, by the way, hit his 300th career home run in the game, and he talked about the at-bat afterward.
Just something told me in my mind, we might be a 3-2 slider right here, and let's just say I put a good swing on it, right? So might have just kept me back just a little bit longer and then got the barrel to it.
What does it mean to get to 300?
Yeah, I mean, well, excuse me. It's a really cool thing, right? That, 300 homers, it's a lot of them, and, it's a cool milestone. And I think the biggest thing, right, is just, there's a lot more to come, and I don't think that, they asked me what would 12-year-old Kyle think if he would hit 300 homers. I would have said probably not, right? But, I've always loved the game, and, I didn't know what it would hold, but, it's been really gracious to me and been around a lot of really good people and a lot of people that have helped me out be the player that I am right now. And hopefully a lot more of the player that's going to be coming here in the future.
Could be 400 career home runs coming for Kyle Schwarber. Also, the Marlins came back to beat the Cubs last night 8-7. Jesus Sanchez hit a leadoff home run and a walk-off triple, which is the first time that's happened in baseball since 1901. That's true. Let's get to the San Francisco 49ers. They signed Fred Warner to a 3-year, $63 million contract extension. Nick Sirianni also signs an extension with the Eagles as they try to ban the tush push. We'll find out if that happens today. Also, Joe Douglas is returning to the Eagles, the ex-GM of the Jets. We'll talk some baseball with Matt Lutovsky up next. Don't go away.
If you believe he should be in the Hall of Fame, there's, let's let him wait another 2 years. Wait, he's already dead at this point. Like, what are you waiting for? Another 2 to 3 years. He's either in or he's out. And sometimes you look at that too, Tom. It's like you can't tell, the history of Major League Baseball without Pete Rose.
Frankly, the writers have some standard that they want to hold players to, which seems to fluctuate on a player-to-player basis. So he should be in the Hall of Fame, but I'm not sure how quickly he'll get there.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Your college performance does not relate to the National Football League. It never
They
does.
played side by side with each other, and he wasn't as good as Quinn Ewers. That's an issue. That's a major issue.
It wasn't that it wasn't as good as Quinn
ever
Ewers.
got to Texas.
It wasn't that it wasn't as good as Quinn Ewers. It was Quinn Ewers' program, which Steve Sarkisian
Why
made
would it be
very
Quinn
clear
Ewers'
the entirety of the time that Arch Manning was in Austin. So for you to argue that because Ewers is a 7th-round pick, Arch Manning is not that good and not deserving of being first overall is asinine. It is wrong. It is incorrect.
I just told you he's going to be number 1 overall. My whole thing was I'm buying
you're doing your thing now where you double down on a take
no, I'm
that
not
is
doing
incorrect.
That. The
when
best
I show
quarterback prospect to ever hit college football can't play
He's
over
not,
a 7th-round
There were
pick
two
who didn't even
perfectly
play
rated
good.
quarterback recruits in the history of the sport.
Quinn Ewers couldn't even play at Ohio State. He couldn't even play at Ohio State.
Quinn Ewers. Go look it up.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. I'm Craig Mish, joined by Matt Lutovsky of Sporting News. We're going to go over the latest in Major League Baseball, including a pretty good showdown between the Tigers and the Cardinals. Matt, thanks for coming on the show. The Tigers have been a nice surprise, playing really good baseball, but the Cardinals, maybe even a bigger surprise over the last couple of weeks. I guess you can always count on the Cardinals to run off some winning streak over the course of the season. So certainly they've done a really good job getting back into it. But let's focus here on the Tigers here for a minute. Right now, they're 31-17, Matt, on the season. They've got the best pitching in baseball, but don't look now. The Twins are now on their heels at 26 and 21. Do you think it's a 3-team race here, 4-team race? I know the White Sox certainly not going to be in the mix at the end.
Yeah, it's always sad when we talk about these divisions where there's just one team that is lagging behind. But no, yeah, I think as of right now, you can look at it as a 4-team race. I don't, the Guardians, they're there kind of in record, but I don't know if necessarily they're going to be there at the end. But they're there right now, and they have talented players, so you can't write them off completely. But certainly, I think looking at it, the Tigers are the best team. You mentioned the pitching. That's unimpeachable. The hitting is very solid too. They're just a complete team. They have the best pitcher. They have a lot of just all the ingredients you want. They obviously were there last year too. They have that experience and that drive. So I think they're the best team. I personally think they're gonna win the division. But you can't count out the Twins and the Royals with the pitching they have. It's very solid, and it obviously overshadows their hitting, which hasn't been great this year for either team. Now the Twins have gotten going a bit during their long winning streak that just recently ended. But the problem with the Twins is always the health. When you look at their lineup, you say, well, the best hitters can't stay healthy. We obviously saw a situation last week where 2 of those guys got hurt on the same play. So that's the Twins. And I think Twins fans, I'm up in Twins country. Twins fans know that up here, and you're kind of always waiting for the other shoe to drop. But with the pitching being as good as it has been, as long as that stays healthy, that's going to keep them in ball games. I think they can make a playoff push, and I feel a lot of the same feelings toward the Royals and their best player, their MVP candidate caliber player. He's not a guy you worry about getting hurt. So the Royals, I think, are going to be solid too. But the Tigers are the best team in that division, and I think they're going to prove that here over the course of the summer.
Diamondbacks beat the Dodgers yesterday. LA has slumped back at home here a little bit, and they're only 10 games over 500. I guess they're not going to win 150 games this season, Matt, as it turns out. But certainly, look, the Dodgers, every team's going to go through this over the course of the season. What's funny is that Arizona is the one team out of the 3 outside of LA that I kind of like more than the rest. Like, I really think that they're built to win. They run very well. They make really good trade deadline moves. And all 3 teams are really bunched up there for second place in the NL West. I would anticipate at some point LA to go on a run and probably take the division, but by no means, to me, should Arizona, for example, as you see on FanDuel, be 10-1, and the Padres plus 650. Like to me, like to make the playoffs in general, I may take Arizona over all those other teams.
Yeah, I agree completely. I really liked Arizona going into the year. Was a little disappointed by their start, but I just think they're, like you said, they're a team that's built to win now and have success, long term. I think with the Dodgers, I think it was last week I came on here and we were talking about the Dodgers, and I said, well, the one thing about the Dodgers is they don't lose at home, and then they lost 4 straight at home. So I'll take the blame for that one, Dodgers fans. But they're certainly still loaded. I think they're going to be fine. Get a little healthier. The pitching's going to be good. But yeah, those other teams, they all just get the job done. San Francisco with the pitching, a little bit what we just talked about with the Twins and the Royals. That's how I look at that team, and their run differential is so high, which normally you don't think of for a team that maybe has some offensive problems. But they're just I think they're built really well too, and they're maybe overachieving right now. But at this point, I don't know if I'd bet on it to completely reverse. So I think they're going to be there in the end. We know the Padres are loaded, but yeah, I think you're right about the Diamondbacks. Just a team that has that kind of good young talent, has some nice pitching pieces. I think has a little bit of a home field advantage too, which is always nice as much as you can have one in baseball. So I think they're going to be there at the end, and I think they're really going to make some waves. I wouldn't be surprised if they finished as high as second.
Let's take a look at the National League East now, where the Phillies are on top, at least for the time being. The Mets got off to that scorching start. They've fallen back a little bit. The Phillies are going to be there in the end, and the Red Sox beat the Mets. So the Mets lose, Phillies win. That's what happened. And as of right now, the Mets are still the favorites to win the division because it's an all-in season. But I could say the same thing for Philadelphia. Don't look now. Braves, 1 game over 500 without Acuna and without Strider. And both of those guys are coming back. So they're in good shape, I would think, moving forward. And, of course, Washington, I don't know. I probably would characterize them as a little disappointing. I thought they'd be around 500. Still time to do that, but 6 games under. And then the Marlins got a great win last night, but we kind of know their situation. So what do you make of this division?
Yeah, I think it's a real fun division, honestly. Like You mentioned those injured guys coming back for the Braves. We'll see Strider here, and that's going to give them, I think, a big jolt. They've already been playing better, so yeah, I certainly think they're going to make a nice run. You know, the Mets, when you start off as hot as they did, you're going to come back to earth a little, but that doesn't mean you're going to stay there. You can get right back going, and for them, I think it's a lot of the offense and. It partly because Juan Soto hasn't really gotten going yet. It looked like he did there for a while, then he slowed down again. He was stealing bases a little bit. You know, they're talking about his lack of hustle. Maybe he just wanted to steal more bases. I don't know. But the bottom line is, if I have to bet on is Juan Soto going to get going and start hitting, yeah, I'm going to take that bet. So I think they're going to be fine. I think the offense will be fine. I like the Phillies coming into the year. I still like them. They're taking advantage of a little bit of a soft spot in the schedule right now with their last series, the series they're in right now in Colorado. It'll be interesting to watch them I was almost at Oakland. It's going to be interesting to watch them at the A's out in Sacramento, and who's certainly been playing well this year. But I think that'll kind of be an interesting, fun series. But yeah, so I like the Phillies overall, but I think the Mets are going to be right there. To me, that's almost a toss-up, and the Braves are going to make things real interesting as well once they get healthy. So I think you have, to me, the most fun division in baseball with the top-end talent there, and these teams that we know there's a lot of media attention and a lot of pressure, and these teams are all trying to win right now because the window, I'm not going to say it's closing, but you never know with what these windows are for these teams. So to me, fantastic division race.
Definitely will be. Down to the wire they'll go. Thanks again, Matt, for coming on the show. Appreciate it. Have a great rest of your week.
All right, thank you.
Coming up next, the San Francisco 49ers in the news, handing out contract extensions to a quarterback and their key defensive player. We'll break it all down with Adam Caplan, our SportsGrid insider, right after this quick timeout. Stay with us here. We'll be right back.
If you believe he should be in the Hall of Fame, there's, let's let him wait another 2 years. Wait, he's already dead at this point. Like, what are you waiting for? Another 2 to 3 years. He's either in or he's not. He's out. And sometimes you look at that too, Tom, and say, you can't tell, the history of Major League Baseball without Pete Rose.
Frankly, the writers have some standard that they want to hold players to, which seems to fluctuate on a player-to-player basis. So he should be in the Hall of Fame, but I'm not sure how quickly he'll get there.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Your college performance does not relate to the National Football League. It never
They
does.
played side by side
Yes.
with each other, and he wasn't as good as Quinn Ewers. That's an issue. That's a major issue.
It wasn't
the
that
best
it wasn't as
quarterback
good as
prospect
Quinn
they've ever
Ewers.
got to Texas.
It wasn't that it wasn't as good as Quinn Ewers. It was Quinn Ewers' program, which Steve Sarkisian
Why
made
would it be
very
Quinn
clear
Ewers'
the entirety of the time that Arch Manning was in Austin. So for you to argue that because Ewers is a 7th-round pick,
Quinn
Arch
Ewers'
Manning is
team.
not that good and not deserving of being first overall is asinine. It is wrong.
I
It
just
is
told
incorrect.
you he's going to be number 1 overall. My whole thing was I'm
you're
buying
doing
him
your
because
thing now
I
where you
expect him to
double
have
down on a
decent
take
No, I'm
that
not
is
doing that.
incorrect
The
when I
best
show it's
quarterback
incorrect.
prospect to ever hit college football can't play
He's
over
not,
a 7th-round
There
pick
were two
who didn't even
perfectly
play
rated
good.
quarterbacks
Stop
recruits
it.
in the history
Stop
of the
it.
sport.
Quinn
Vince
Ewers couldn't
Young
even play at
and
Ohio
Quinn
State.
Ewers.
He couldn't even play at
Vince
Ohio
Young
State.
and Quinn Ewers. Go look it up.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. We're almost halfway through the offseason of the NFL. That's right. We are about 100 days away, 90 days away for some college and a little bit more for some pro. We got, of course, quick turnaround here. I believe August 4th, first preseason game, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, I mean, it's all happening pretty quickly. And so teams are having to make decisions on extensions and doing it now. Let's make some decisions here with Adam Caplan here. He joins our Sports Grid insider. Brock Purdy got a contract extension, Adam, that maybe flew more under the radar than any other story last week. It was a very odd release time, date, etc. Like, I think I completely even missed this and found out the next day. It's like strange timing to have this all leak out.
Yeah, so what happened with Brock Purdy was, Craig, is that the 49ers made a decision. They were not going to do what's called a bridge deal, where you kind of hedge your bet. Maybe you do a 2-year deal. Then if he's doing great during the second season, you extend him off that. They made a decision. They were not going to do that. They were all in, $53 million a year. And they wanted everyone to know he's their guy. They wanted the player to know that Brock's going to be their guy for a long time. He's been a really good fit for this offense, this West Coast offense, Craig. The one issue you have is he's had an injury history. You worry about that. He did the best he could last season, playing through a couple of different issues. But the thing now with the 49ers is, and we'll talk about their defense and Fred Warner situation, which is interesting, but it's now looking at that receiver position. With Brandon Ayuk coming off his ACL injury, they traded Deebo Samuel. So things are changing there. And what's still interesting, though, every book, Craig, still has the 49ers to win the NFC West.
Yeah. But they traded Mason too. What is sort of their offseason purpose, do you think? I mean, that's sort of putting a lot of eggs in the McCaffrey basket again, no? I mean, do they like Garendo that much?
They do, but Garendo is an older player. He's in his second year now out of Louisville, who's super explosive, could catch the ball well, could block well, I'm told. But he's got a big injury history too. That's a concern. Now, Jordan Mason, the thing is, they could commit money to him. They knew it. He was a restricted free agent. It wasn't going to work for them. So they moved him to Minnesota. That made a lot of sense. But really, when you look at it with the 49ers, they're kind of retooling. They're not rebuilding. It's not a rebuild.
Right.
Purdy's their guy. It's a retooling. But Brandon Ayuk, who I just mentioned, is coming off a serious injury, who's clearly their number one receiver. So now puts Ricky Pearsall sort of in the crosshairs now. He is now expected to play a lot. He's going to be a starter. Juwan Jennings will be their third receiver. Juwan Jennings, by the way, played pretty well last season.
He did.
The key here is to get a Pearsall breakout. Remember, he did well late last season, and see what they can get out of Ayuk. That's a tough injury to come back from, an ACL when you're a receiver.
Yeah, definitely so. Kittle back with an extension too. All right. So Fred Warner back as well. Is it fair to say? I'm trying to think this through here a little bit, Adam. Fred Warner, is he a Hall of Fame player at this point? Is he going to be a Hall of Famer? He's had an incredible career with that.
Craig, what's incredible about Fred Warner? When I talked to him either his rookie or second season at their training camp, he had never played middle linebacker in his football playing career, whether it was BYU or high school. And you just mentioned how good he's been. He signed a historic contract back in 2021, in July of 21, right before training camp, which is over $19 million a year. Now, that deal would have expired after the 26 season. So what they did is, because it's kind of outdated, this is 4 years ago, they've extended him again for the 29 season, now at $21 million a season. He's just a phenomenal football player. And it shows at linebacker, at this position, the off-the-ball linebacker, whether it's middle linebacker, strong, or weak side, you could get guys later in the draft, okay? It doesn't have to be in the first round. He was selected in the third round in 2018 and 70th pick overall. And I would say he's on track to be a Hall of Fame player, like Patrick Willis.
It seems like there's too much smoke, Adam, before we let you go for this tush-push thing. This is going to get banned, right? We just keep talking about it. This is not going to get banned after hearing about this so much.
Yeah, everything I've been told and everything I've heard will suggest it's going to get banned. Now, it got tabled. It got tabled at the last meeting, the March meeting. This week is called the spring meeting. This one is in Minneapolis. But they've got to have enough votes. And the key is to get 3/4 here. They didn't have it, by the way. That's why it got tabled. Look, if it doesn't get banned now, it'll get banned next March. It's when there's a movement within the league to get this done, it's going to get done.
Yeah.
And oh, by the way, playoff seeding also could have an interesting move here in terms of seeding and how they do it, because you have to reward divisional winners. But the Lions' proposal is interesting. They want to do away with it. They want to go by best record.
I like that idea, but I'm tired of seeing 8 and 9 getting a first round home game. All right, Adam, thanks again for coming on. Really appreciate it, and we'll catch up with you again next week.
Sounds good, thanks.
All right, Adam Caplan, our SportsGrid insider. Coming up next, Adam Kaufman's got no Celtics to watch, but there's a lot of other NBA beginning tonight. We'll preview the Western Conference Finals next.
Did you know sportsbooks tend to draw up tighter bet lines for events that get even more bettors, like championship games or major matchups? My tip? Try betting on less popular sports. You might have a better shot at beating those odds. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Chiefs Chargers in Brazil on Friday on YouTube. They're going to give everyone that game for free. They're so generous because the rest of the season they're going to fleece you for all your money.
That's one, Scott. That division to me, based on what's happened to the Chiefs the last couple seasons, that division, the AFC West, could be up for grabs here. I know Chiefs fans think I'm probably out of my mind.
Pharrell, coast to coast, only on SportsGrid.
I actually like the fact that they went 7 games against a quality opponent here and still had to face adversity even in a game number 7. How are we setting up this next series where they rested Minnesota Timberwolves team taking on OKC fresh from the fight here?
They had an extremely, maybe it's just too strong a statement to say, easier pathway than people thought, particularly because of their size.
The early line, only on SportsGrid. The game is on. The stakes are high, but the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that rim. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
A little flyer, couple 15.5-point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. It's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Western Conference Finals Game 1 begins tonight. Got a preview of the game with Adam Kaufman. I know he's reeling a little bit with the Celtics being out of it, but Adam, come on, man. I mean, we got an East Finals, a West Finals. Maybe these games will be competitive. I mean, Adam, come on, man. I mean, a lot of championships for those Celtics.
I'm not happy, Craig, the Celtics aren't playing. Of course, any team that, you root for, you want them to continue on. But I'll tell you what, as an NBA fan, you could look at this in a couple different ways. Like, I'm sure you have guests on that are much smarter than me when it comes to talking about broadcast partners and network rights. What's the league rooting for? I mean, this is not good, especially if New York does get knocked out and Indiana advances and you have a potentially an Indiana-Oklahoma City final. Like, that's awful for broadcast partners in terms of ratings, you would think. Maybe I'll be proven wrong on that. But just as an NBA fan and talking about something different, right? I mean, we now will have a different NBA champion for, I believe, the 7th straight year. But moreover, Indiana's never won a championship. Minnesota has never won a championship. New York hasn't won since the 70s. Oklahoma City, formerly Seattle, last won, I believe, in the 70s. So you're talking about a team that is either winning for the first time or the first time in half a century. And that's exciting, right? We want sports that have parity. The NBA generally does not. So that's a cool thing that we have in front of us.
Yeah, and I think that's a great way to look at it, and good you have that the glass is half full for you today, Adam. I appreciate that. That's the way we're going to do it here. So the Thunder, you really can't find anyone, Adam, in our stratosphere picking Minnesota to win the series. I have not been able to find anyone, but there are a lot of people who are picking Minnesota, some to take this to 6 and to 7 games. Oklahoma City is minus 375, so that's just a silly bet, obviously. No one's going to lay 375 to win 100. The Thunder to win in, 1.5 games, a 4-1 scenario, something like that. minus 162. Betting the over on 5.5 games is minus 140. Of course, that means, for those of you novices out there, that means 6 games or more. And the under 5.5 is plus 114. So, I mean, clearly Minnesota has to steal one of those games in Oklahoma City to even give them a reasonable chance to win this. But, Adam, I think they may do that and still may not win more than 1 or 2 games in this series, because OKC, when they hit the button, man, and they put the pedal down, it's usually a wrap.
Yeah, Craig, if you're looking for someone in our stratosphere here to come on and give you the argument for the Minnesota Timberwolves, you've come to the wrong place. In fact, I don't think this is going to be much of a series at all. In New York, Indiana, that could be compelling. That could go 7. That could be a coin flip. I think the odds makers are telling you exactly what this series is going to look like, and it should be OKC in a romp. I think 5 games is probably the best bet. Maybe it goes 6. A sweep, outside chance. I don't see any universe short of an injury, obviously, where it goes 7. So, what you didn't talk about there in terms of ways to bet this thing, maybe the way to attack it is to sprinkle, or hell, go full unit if you want to. It depends on your conviction in the Thunder, obviously, but sprinkle or divide a unit, what have you, on correct series score, right? Oklahoma City, I'm looking at FanDuel, in 5 games is plus 280. That is the betting favorite in terms of those outcomes. I'd put some money on OKC in 5, the gentleman's sweep. I'd put some money on OKC in 6. That's a plus 390. Just to at least give some respect to the Timberwolves, because again, I do think they'll steal a game. The Thunder were not impervious to failure or to, late game collapses, coaching themselves out of situations with some inexperience in the last round against a title-winning team very recently and the best player in the world, Nikola Jokic, and the Denver Nuggets. But I just don't see Minnesota having what it takes depth-wise and consistency-wise to be able to force this overwhelming favorite from Oklahoma City to 7 games. So that's what I would do. I would rather attack series score, OKC 5 and 6, dabble on both, versus laying the juice minus 140 and betting over 5.5 games, because I think it's incredibly realistic that it doesn't go to 6 games.
And by the way, Minnesota has played tight with OKC, beating them a couple of times during the regular season. And Oklahoma City's biggest margin of victory was 8 over the course of the regular season too. And a lot of those games were at the end of the year too, in December and February as well. So Minnesota does play up. They also play down. We'll see how this thing plays out when it begins tonight. By the way, Thunder minus 7.5 tonight. Real quick, is this the game Minnesota steals, you think? Or is this much ado about nothing tonight?
I kind of want to stay away from the spread, because I'll tell you what, if I was going to invest in it, I would be laying it with the Thunder. I think there's obviously no rust. They're coming off a grueling series. They had that blowout win in Game 7 to put the thing away only a couple of days ago, and they're still at home, where they are damn near unbeatable. They are an incredible home team. It's a tough environment to play in. There could be a rust factor on the part of the Timberwolves. Anthony Edwards in the previous round against the Warriors got off to slow start after slow start in those games. A lot of shooting woes in there. They were content to kind of lean on Julius Randle a little bit. I just think that Oklahoma City, again, it's a lack of giving the Timberwolves, who are in the conference finals for the 2nd straight year, their due, I suppose. But I think OKC smashes them in this series, and I think that begins tonight.
Knicks and Pacers, I think both think this is going to be a very competitive series. I saw plus 140 for Indiana to win the series yesterday. I see plus 130 today. I don't get it at all. Like, to me, at the very least, this should be minus 110 on both sides. I understand maybe if the Knicks are at home, 115 to minus 105, but the Knicks are minus 150 to win this series, Adam. And, certainly this could go a number of different directions, but I feel like Indiana has a real shot to win this series in 6 or 7 games. And I just don't get why the line is what it is for the series. What am I missing?
I've been screaming it from the mountaintops for days, if not weeks, here on SportsGrid. Craig, I think Indiana at plus money to win this series is absolutely the play. Is it a lot to happen? there's no such thing. New York is a favorite for a reason. I think part of that reason is that if it goes 7 games, obviously it's not going to be easy for the Pacers to win at MSG in that game 7. I don't know that it goes 7. Indiana in 6 is the prediction that I would like if you're asking me to, specifically handicap it. I just think the Pacers, you can argue about their path and the fact that, they got a decimated Bucks team, took them down in 5. A decimated 60-plus win Cavaliers team took them down in 5. But to me, the overwhelming thing about watching the Pacers is this boulder-sized chip that's on their shoulder, and the way that they're playing, they're confident, they're healthy. Halliburton's balling out right now. They've had their clutch moments, just like Jalen Brunson and the Knicks on the other side. And I just don't believe, and Frank, our producer, he's a Knicks fan. He'd probably disagree. He'd call me, this is Celtics bias coming in. I think on the other side, I don't think the Knicks played a good series against Boston. Celtics stunk, don't get me wrong, but I don't think the Knicks were particularly good. They trailed by 20 in multiple games. They come back and won. They trailed by 14. Another game they came back and win. You want to give them credit for their resilience and never quitting, never turtling, never giving up. I'm all for it. Do that. I think New York is going to go into this and be headstrong. But in terms of your top to bottom talent, your depth, I lean on the part of the Pacers. I think the number's wrong. I agree with you, and I think Indiana is off to the NBA Finals.
Yeah, and tonight, by the way, I don't think it's necessary that Indiana wins this game in New York, but probably to win the series, they'll have to win one of the next 2. Tonight's line's 4.5, total 223. Tomorrow's game, excuse me. I just like the series price much better. I would just take that as opposed to the game tomorrow.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. All right, Adam, great stuff as always. Enjoy the series, and we'll catch up again soon.
Should be fun.
Roch Kubatko from Masson Sports joins us next. All is not well in Birdland. We'll get to the bottom of it with Roch next here on NewsWire.
Did you know sportsbooks tend to draw up tighter bet lines for events that get even more bettors, like championship games or major matchups? My tip, try betting on less popular sports. You might have a better shot at beating those odds. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Chiefs Chargers in Brazil on Friday on YouTube. They're going to give everyone that game for free. They're so generous because the rest of the season they're going to fleece you for all your money.
That's one, Scott. That division to me, based on what's happened to the Chiefs the last couple seasons, that division, the AFC West, could be up for grabs here. I know Chiefs fans think I'm probably out of my mind.
Pharrell, coast to coast, only on SportsGrid.
I actually like the fact that they went 7 games against a quality opponent here and still had to face adversity even in a game number 7. How are we setting up this next series with a rested Minnesota Timberwolves team taking on OKC fresh from the fight here?
They had an extremely, maybe it's just too strong a statement to say, easier pathway than people thought, particularly because of their size.
The early line, only on SportsGrid. The game is on. The stakes are high, but the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that rim. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
A little flyer, couple of
15.5-point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. It's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. One of the big surprises in baseball this season on the negative side, we try to do positive stuff as much as we can, but we got to cover it all, has been this season for the Baltimore Orioles. A very bizarre start for them as we head toward Memorial Day. Let's get to the bottom as to what is going on in Birdland with Roch Kubatko from Masson Sports. He joins us now. Always great to have Roch's perspective on what's going on with the Orioles. So, I mean, Roch, I saw the offseason. You saw the offseason. I got to tell you, man, like, even with that offseason, there's no way anybody could have predicted, I'm sorry, that it would have been this bad for the Orioles this season. So to be quite frank with you, I'm not surprised Brandon Hyde was fired because there is some culpability for everybody involved.
Yeah, that seat got pretty warm for a few people. And we all knew that there were some potential risks with this roster in the season, but I kept stressing that there was a lot of good talent coming back. There wasn't a dominant team in the American League. There's probably 5 teams in the NL that are better than anybody in the AL. So, and there was no one's going to run away with the division. I kept saying they're definitely a playoff team. It's just a question of whether they win a division or not, and can they win a playoff game, let alone a series. How deep can they advance? So I don't know if there's been a bigger disappointment, bigger negative surprise in baseball than this team, but the concerns about the roster came to fruition. The depth that they thought they had built, they really focused on that in the offseason, kind of left them early. And once again, injuries are killing them. And no other team wants to hear about your injuries. The Yankees are like, we're in first place and we're far from being completely healthy. But they have been a big deal to an Oriole team that was counting on Grayson Rodriguez to develop as a number one. He hasn't pitched since we were in Fort Myers, hasn't talked to us since we were in Fort Myers. Zach Eflin went on the IL. Andrew Kittredge, bullpen, has not pitched for them yet. Cowser breaks his thumb in the opening series in Toronto, diving into first base. Westberg's out. He's had a setback with his hamstring. So again, injuries are battering them, but they don't have the depth that they thought that they would have. And it just kind of all started to fall apart. Am I surprised about Brandon Hyde? I got to be honest with you. I didn't think they'd make a move in May. Guy had 3 straight winning seasons, back-to-back playoffs, 2-time Sporting News Manager of the Year. And he's out of a job in May, but this is a what have you done for us lately business, as you know.
Yeah, no, it is rough. And, Brandon was with the team for all of those, tough seasons and then got out of it. And then this is the reward. So here's what I would add. This was my opinion on the Orioles kind of going into the season before the year, which was, Roch, it felt like, and, Mike Elias has been a great friend to our show. He comes on every single year with us, and I've talked to him throughout the years. The sense I got, Roch, was the Orioles are going to play it like this. They're going to be very bullish on their prospects. They're never going to go all in on any particular player in terms of free agency and not make any mega moves because I think their idea was, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, let's win those 85 to 90 every year and then maybe catch lightning in a bottle because who in the bleep knows who's going to win this World Series? It's like the NCAA tournament come the playoffs. Maybe it'll be us one year. Maybe it won't be us one year. But this is where that whole plan like severely backfired. And so I'm like dead wrong in my analysis because I thought that's where they would be. I'm like, you know what? Probably true. Arizona, they get to the World Series. Texas gets to the World Series. Who really knows? Maybe the Orioles one of these years will do it just by staying consistently in that above average range. But I guess you just can't play it like that.
Yeah, got to get hot at the right time, as those two teams did that you mentioned. And again, they were really rolling the dice, banking on the progress of a group of young players. The Jackson Holidays, Colton Cowsers, Jordan Westberg, Adley Rutschman, that he would have a big bounce back after a bad second half. And Heston Kjerstad, the second overall pick in 2020, who's not a kid anymore. We got to figure out, is this a guy? And, a bounce back seasons from some others, and then some of the pieces they brought in. And again, Grayson Rodriguez, counting on him to finally emerge. And when that doesn't happen, you're in a lot of trouble. And, it's to the point where I kept saying, people are freaking out 2 weeks into the season. I was like, look, this is not the NFL. It's early. Well, you can't keep saying it's early now. They 16 games under 500. It does have a way of just snowballing. And the guys in that clubhouse still believe, look, we just have to, get hot here, which we're bound to do. They still believe in the talent. They're gradually getting healthier now. And in the second half, they'll have Kyle Bradish and Tyler Wells back, maybe Rodriguez at some point, and they can make a run. But if you dig a hole this deep, it's going to be impossible to climb out of it. It's pretty much everything. The rotations ERA, the bullpen's ERA now. They don't hit with runners in scoring position. The defense was shaky, and they used to take pride in their defense. And suddenly they're thrown to the wrong base. They're not executing. They signed Tyler O'Neill, and he's been on the IL twice already this season. That's 16 for his career, and I think it's 13 different body parts. So, anything that could go wrong went wrong. And there's Brandon Hyde, who I don't care who's managing this club. You can bring back Earl Weaver from the 70s. I don't think this team would be winning right now. But you don't replace half of your roster. Something's got to change. And if you're not going to do anything with the coaching staff beyond Major League Field Coordinator Tim Cousins, it ends up being the manager.
Yeah, and some losses even after that. And, I see fans calling for Buck Showalter. Like, what is he going to do? He's not going to change anything at this stage of the season. All right, so set me up here.
Revamp the organization to make Buck work there. You have to pretty much move out a lot of people, I think.
So, Brewers, Red Sox, Cardinals are on deck. I mean, this thing eventually is going to get better. I mean, there's no way it could get worse. The thing is that bad luck has put the Orioles 16 games under or whatever. The team should be a 500 team at worst, is my opinion on it. But at some point, you got to look at yourself and call it what it is, because even if the hitting gets better, Roch, I mean, some of those guys have got to pitch better. I feel bad for Charlie. I guess I shouldn't, because I thought he's going to retire like 3 years in a row, and he keeps coming back here. But that pitching has got to get better.
It does. And Tomoyuki Sugano from Japan, that was the guy we thought was a huge question mark, 35-year-old rookie. He's been their best starter easily, and really could be their all-star representative at this point. That was a great move Mike Elias deserves a lot of credit for. But yeah, Charlie Morton has not worked out, and he's in a bullpen. They signed Kyle Gibson. He makes 4 starts. They DFA him, get a quick ramp up. And now the door's still open for him to come back, but that didn't work. So, yeah, it all starts with starting pitching, and we knew that rotation had some question marks. Eflin got hurt. He's back. Rodriguez, we've talked about. So if you're not pitching, it doesn't really matter what else is going on with your team.
Yep. Thanks, Roch. We'll catch you when the team gets back home. Thanks again for coming on.
Thank you.
All right. We'll be right back with more NewsWire and...
If you believe he should be in the Hall of Fame, there's, let's let him wait another 2 years. Wait, he's already dead at this point. Like, what are you waiting for? Another 2 to 3 years. He's either in or he's out. And sometimes you look at that too, Tom. It's like you can't tell, the history of Major League Baseball without Pete Rose.
Frankly, the writers have some standard that they want to hold players to, which seems to fluctuate on a player-to-player basis. So he should be in the Hall of Fame, but I'm not sure how quickly he'll get there.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Your college performance does not relate to the National Football League. It never
They
does.
played side by side with each other, and he wasn't as good as Quinn Ewers. That's an issue. That's a major issue.
It wasn't that it wasn't as good as Quinn
Ewers.
Ewers.
Got to Texas.
It wasn't that it wasn't as good as Quinn Ewers. It was Quinn Ewers' program, which Steve Sarkisian
Why
made
would it
very
be Quinn
clear
Ewers'
the entirety of the time that Arch Manning was in Austin. So for you to argue that because Ewers is a 7th-round pick, Arch Manning is not that good and not deserving of being first overall is asinine. It is wrong. It is incorrect.
I told you he's going to be number 1 overall. My whole thing was I'm buying
you're doing
him
your thing
because
now
I
where you
expect him to
double
have
down on a
decent
take
season. No, I'm
that
not
is
doing that.
incorrect
The
when I
best
show it's
quarterback
incorrect.
prospect to ever hit college football can't play
He's
over
not,
a 7th-round
there were
pick
two
who didn't even
perfectly
play
rated
good.
quarterback
Stop
recruits
it.
in the history
Stop
of the
it.
sport.
Quinn Ewers couldn't even play at Ohio
Quinn
State.
Ewers.
He couldn't even play at
Vince
Ohio
Young and
State.
Quinn Ewers. Go look it up.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back to NewsWire. We just got the results of the NBA Draft Lottery. The Dallas Mavericks get the #1 pick. Also, the Chicago White Sox may not be having a great season, but at least they get a blessing. And also a animal in some trouble here at a Cincinnati Reds game. Let's get to some last licks. All right, Shaquille O'Neal, who's never been afraid to speak. In fact, if you're watching any kind of television or streaming show, there's pretty good odds that there's going to be an ad featuring Shaquille O'Neal doing something. Pizza, insurance, I don't know. NBA games, he's involved. So he went on a podcast recently, and he was asked about the Dallas Mavericks getting the #1 overall pick and whether or not the fix was in. And Shaq, interestingly enough, shared a story that when he was at LSU and he was expected, and of course was going to be the #1 overall pick. I mean, he was as generational a player coming out of college as any player in the last like 50 years. Okay, this is just true. So Shaq's going to come out, and David Stern, he has a commissioner with him, and David Stern, I guess on this podcast, he asked him, does he prefer to play in warm weather or cold, and then gave him a wink. Now, look, Shaq likes to stir it up. Do I think that the fix was in for Shaq to go to the Orlando Magic? I don't really think so. But it was interesting and funny to think, because we're all like looking at the Mavericks and wondering how they got so lucky that to get Cooper Flagg now after losing Luka. It's like they're going to be right back in it. Dallas is going to be great again. They got Anthony Davis and some other players too. So funny stuff from Shaq here, but I don't think the NBA is fixing anything for Shaq to go to the Magic. And by the way, why would David Stern care where Shaq ended up going? Cold weather, warm weather. But, Shaq likes to talk. And, for me, of all the athletes that I've covered, he's one of my favorites. Really, really, really funny guy. So anyway, probably just stirring it up there too. All right, so we've got a new Pope, of course. And we know that the Pope this was a big debate in sports as to who he was a fan of. And then it was revealed, if you may remember a few weeks ago, that he attended the Chicago White Sox World Series. In fact, some people thought he was a Cubs fan and the Cubs were congratulating him. But video did prove to be very clear evidence that he did attend a World Series game, and they showed exactly where he was sitting. I guess it was like a shot during the game. Was it 2005, I think, World Series, if I'm not mistaken? So anyway, Southside has decided to honor him by putting a sign for where the Pope sat at the game. And remember, this is they called it New Comiskey. I don't even, what is it called now these days? The White Sox field. I don't even remember. It's not Progressive, is it? I can't even remember. Guaranteed Cellular Field, U.S. Cellular. I can't even keep up with all this stuff. Anyway, yes, Pope did attend games as a fan of the White Sox, and they're going to honor. Wow, can you imagine if you get to sit in the seat that the Pope sat? That's got to be a really hot ticket, I think, moving forward there, right? Finally, folks, a pigeon, folks. We end the show with a pigeon in critical condition after being struck by a line drive yesterday at Reds batting practice. Yes, these are the stories that we can't make up that are actually true. You may remember the most famous bird that was involved at a baseball stadium. That was with Randy Johnson throwing a pitch in spring training. We've all seen that before. That pigeon didn't make it. This pigeon is in critical condition. This happens all over sports, especially in these open-air stadiums. The birds fly in, and hopefully this bird ends up being okay. And, naturally, we're always rooting for the health of animals here on the show. So there you go. That's how we'll end it today. All right. Also, we're rooting for you to stick around to Smiley Kaufman. He's got the latest on Scotty Scheffler winning the PGA Championship, and now the U.S. Open is on deck. That's coming up in a month from now. And then we've got Pharrell Coast to Coast, 3 o'clock Eastern, with a big preview of tonight's Western Conference Finals in the NBA. 6 o'clock Eastern, Front Office Sports from 6 to 6:30. 6:30 to 8, it is Game Time Decisions, followed by in-game live game day. And then Gabe's got the latest on Sports Rage tonight as he awaits the Stanley Cup playoffs, which are also just about set to begin as well. For those of you looking to stream our show 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, take out your phone and scan this QR code. It is the SportsGrid app, and it is completely free. So for those of you who have, let's say, a brand new TV, you know who you are out there watching. If you've got a Samsung or a Vizio, you're watching on TV because it's free TV, it's internet TV. Well, how about using your phone to scan that QR code right there and watch us on your phone or your tablet as well? It's available for both iOS and Android. The SportsGrid app, retooled, and it's awesome. Download it now when you can. Also, quick reminder, tonight's line in the NBA, 7.5. Oklahoma City is favored by Minnesota. Total at 216, as you see right there. For more information, again, Scott Farrell goes 3 o'clock Eastern. Check it out. Adam Kaufman was on the show. Thanks to him. Thanks to Roch Kubatko for coming on the program as well. And thanks to all of you for watching. No doubt about that. Thanks to our director, Luke, producer, Frank. I'm Craig Mish. See you back here tomorrow for our next edition of NewsWire.